Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern. Join me as I invite experts and friends to discuss a range of topics, from the factual and practical to the mystical and magical. Consider this your virtual happy hour filled with lively, authentic, and meaningful conversations meant to inform, inspire, and ignite your curiosity. Whether you are very real or super woo, this podcast is just for you. Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern, and today I have the esteemed Cheryl Fisher on with me. And let me tell you just a little bit about the amazing Cheryl. She's a certified life and mindset coach and the host of Global Top 2% podcast, Mind Your Midlife. And we just recorded an episode where I am your guest, and I'm so excited when that comes out. And Cheryl's got a unique background in corporate consulting, airline pricing, and economics. She brings a refreshing blend of strategic pragmatism and emotional intelligence to the coaching world. She doesn't just help midlife women feel better. She provides the tactical frameworks they need to dismantle self-limiting narratives and design a second half of life defined by purpose and bold decision-making through her high-impact one-on-one coaching and masterclasses. Cheryl has helped women around the world transition from feeling stuck to launching businesses, revitalizing relationships, and reclaiming their confidence. When she isn't recording a new episode or coaching a client, Cheryl is a wife, mom, and grandma who can be found on the golf course knitting, reading, or mastering a game of mahjong. I love all of that. Cheryl, airline pricing. Can we just start there? What does that even mean?
Yeah, I've changed careers a number of times. People ask me about that a lot. So early in my career, I had studied math and economics. And one of my first jobs, not the very first one, was working in pricing for US Airways, which doesn't even exist anymore. But most people, at least in our sort of age group, remember what that was. And airline pricing is crazy complicated, truly crazy complicated. That every market has hundreds potentially of different fares for different travel on different days. And there's a lot of analysis to that. So yeah, that's part of my background.
Thank you for that service. I was just visiting one of my kids. She's in med school in Kansas City. And we were walking down a street and there was like this rocket ship, an old-fashioned rocket ship with a TWA logo on it.
Oh, yeah.
And I said to my kids, I'm like, that used to be an airline. Like that used to be like the airline.
Yes.
And it just inspired this whole conversation about things that and I was just watching the news today, and because of the way the economy is going, people's funds are limited. I guess no surprise, the algorithm is now preying on our sense of nostalgia to make us loosen our wallets at Pizza Hut, for example. They are, I guess, rolling out a redesign of their restaurants to look like it used to, like in the 80s, which is cute, right? But I just wish that things didn't prey on our emotions so much, which is why I love the way we intersect and connect. And I don't know if when we met on your podcast, I had come up with this phrase yet, but you and I do very similar things. And I feel like as women, when we encounter this exact alignment, one of us, now you and I don't do this anymore, but our clients feel like they need to step aside because, that other woman's been doing it longer, or she's doing it better, or how can I possibly compete? And so the idea of the word crossover, I felt, has become very limiting. And so I did this post about it, probably on TikTok, about it's really more like cross-pollination. We are pollinating each other and expanding because we align, and we've got different ways of doing similar businesses, helping women overcome those limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. One of the things you had sent to me about things you'd like to talk about, I just want to hop right into, which is complaining as a habit of conversation, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up with a mother, and I love her, and she's on the other side, who asked questions and thought that was conversation. Now, I'm a Gemini and I'm very curious, and I do ask a lot of questions, but not because I want to fill space. I just want to know the answer. So Tell me about your experience with noticing that complaint has become conversational, and then how do you help that client get over that hump?
Yeah, it's a important and tricky process is my short answer to that. But my story on this is, and I really want to circle back to the question thing because that's the first time I've ever heard that. So let's put a pin in that for a second. My story is I was a teacher for 12 years in amongst these other things that I did, and I was teaching high school math and economics. And I couldn't see myself doing that for the next like 25 years or whatever it would have been to get to retirement. So I was always thinking, looking around, what else might I do? And I had started an online business on the side. And one day I was in the kitchen talking to my husband about this online business. And he said, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. And I said, "What? What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, all you do is complain about it all the time." And that memory is so vivid because, of course, things that are surprising or emotional stick with us. But I was shocked. I had no idea that his experience of everything I was saying was that I was complaining all the time. I had no idea that's what I was doing. I just thought I was having a conversation, talking about it. And that made me start paying attention to how did I go through my day and talk to people and what was I talking about? Because, of course, with close friends, maybe, or with family, we would be talking about things that matter to us and, getting right in there and whatever. But with a lot of acquaintances or colleagues or whoever else is in our lives, we have these like light conversations. And a lot of times it's complaining. Oh my gosh, the traffic was terrible this morning. Oh, it's so hot today. Like it's always hot. We never have any spring. We always go from cold to hot. When I was a teacher, is the copier's broken again? Why is the copier already always broken? And it's just that's how we talk. And it does matter because it kind of brings us down lower, for the lack of a better word at the moment,
I
in
just
terms.
I just wrote down in my notes, I'm like, talk about how that's a low vibration.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Because it's almost like we're racing each other to the bottom. What can I complain about that is also bad? And then we start like one upping each other, but negatively, kind of. And a lot of times we don't even realize. But now the focus is on what can I look for and notice in my life that I can complain to my colleagues or whoever about. And as you know, certainly the more we look for things that we can complain about, the more we're going to find them. So, yeah, it brings us kind of down and down and down and down. And it's a habit that we don't realize, which I think is probably maybe the trickiest part because the way that I help people get out of this, it's a process, really. The very first thing is just recognizing it, just like that aha that I had. Like, is this really how I'm talking? And for me, it was almost like I forgot how to carry on a conversation for a while. I had to really relearn and have something else to say. And that's a lot of times what I work with people on is first recognizing it, but second, maybe have like one or two questions handy, like what are you going to do this weekend, or what did you do last weekend? Just something simple to like maybe start tweaking it away from the complaining.
That's fascinating. Unfortunately, and I feel like you and I envision this kind of world where feeling ease and joy would be more of a rib sticker than feeling the negativity and the aggravating. Yet, for some reason, our brains are wired to really start there. What is bothering us the most is often what is forefront on our mind
Correct.
versus what is delighting us the most.
Yes.
And let's just here today, everybody out there listening, let's change that paradigm, right? We start living and looking for things to delight us because there's plenty of them, and make that
Mm.
your lead magnet in your conversations versus oi the traffic, or oh, I got out of bed and I got spilkies in my
Yeah.
cookies in winter, whatever, like Bugs Bunny. That's fascinating. And I'm sure with your clients, as I find with mine, you said it, the first part is recognition. And it's so fun when you see the light bulb go off. Of course, this kind of light bulb is like, wow, I never knew I was such a downer,
Yeah, that's a hard one.
later or
Yeah.
fetcher. And so then that second part of the coaching love punch would be, yeah, we're recognizing you're in there and love yourself no matter what. So my
Of
hashtag is no
course.
matter. So no matter what, yes, right now your habit is you present with a complaint and we're going to help you fix that and work through that. Now, there
Yeah.
are plenty of ways to complain, but you're right. Like it starts feeding that group dynamic and then everybody's talking
Yeah.
about what's wrong versus what's going right.
Yeah. When you add a whole group together that are all doing that, the energy is, whew, it's low. And
Yeah.
especially in a teaching job, which is already difficult, that's not what we needed. But in any scenario, in any situation. And there's a couple things people always say to me when I talk about this. And one of them is, well, what if something is wrong and I want to vent about it? You're telling me I can't ever complain about anything? Well, no, that's not what I'm saying, because I think venting done properly is important. And that doesn't mean that every conversation we have is venting about this thing. Maybe we put some timing around it, or we talk with one person that we really want to talk to about that thing or something. Because, yeah, venting still maybe needs to happen sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah, I have a friend who tends to tell everybody the same complaint, and have created a boundary around this
Mm,
behavior because I realized years ago I would devote a good amount of time as a friend to try to help this person navigate this awful, terrible thing that was happening out of all the other things that happen regularly, apparently. And then I'd come to find out like I'd still be there and like I'd check back in, like, hey, how did that go? Oh, it's fine. Oh, I told so and so all about it and she helped me. I'm like,
mm.
motherfucker, seriously? Like, I spent 2 hours with you on the telephone. Now you 20 other people and now somebody else helped you. So I realized the habit and the pattern was she's a person who just needs to be validated in her pain and suffering and doesn't necessarily need or want the level of help I was offering, but it's just enough for her to get it out, just like what you're saying. Like, we need to
Yeah.
get it out.
Yeah.
So the energy shifts. But on the receiving end of that kind of habitual complainer, it is up to us to create a healthy boundary of our tolerance and acceptance and recognition of this person's just that kind of person. I don't need to get in there. I can just listen, say I'm sorry because I truly am. And if I've started to say, would you like some help with this? And then if the
Mm.
answer is yes, I might offer a piece of help, but not maybe everything in my toolbox because I know she's going to go say the same thing to 5 other people.
You know what? It's such a good point, because I think we often skip the step when we're communicating with someone of asking them what they want. Do you want some help, or do you want me to just listen? That would, I think, always be okay to say, but it doesn't always occur to us uh,
No.
in
It
conversation.
really taught me that. It was a couple of years ago. Of course, our children are our best teachers. And my son was calling home, and thankfully, and he was talking about an issue or a problem or something. And I went into mom mode and I'm starting to offer and fix and try to help and blah, blah, blah. And he stopped me cold and he said, Mom, I love you. I'm not looking for a solution. I just want you to
Hmm.
listen. But that I'm not looking for a solution. I feel as moms, it's just a knee jerk reaction. We want to
Oh,
help our
yeah.
kids, but he wasn't asking for it. So
Yeah.
again, same thing. Like, ask your friends, do you want me to listen? Or your spouse is a great example, especially, with husbands, because my husband said the same thing to me that yours has. And I wonder sometimes if their earmuffs are different. I mean, there's no surprise they are, but it's almost like the Charlie Brown, wah, 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 the minute the mouth opens, the earmuffs go on that she's going to go through these things and that's not fair. But anyway, so I just wonder sometimes if they just choose to hear differently.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, which segues into something else you inspired me to ask you about, which was having a healthy relationship with fear.
Mhm.
So if we are afraid to piss somebody off or complain too much or whatever the fear is, how do you help people get over the idea that fear is something that we do need to make friends with because we do.
Mhm.
So do you have like some tips and tools that in your toolbox that you'd like to share?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I did an assessment, and this is the assessment I now use with my coaching clients. But way back when I first did it for myself, the results of this assessment came up and said that I did not have a healthy relationship with fear in my life. And I was pretty surprised, in fact, because I had already started doing a podcast, not the one I'm doing now. And I was speaking to groups and I was doing things and I was like, I'm not afraid. What is this talking about? I don't understand. But what it was saying, and this is true, and this is kind of what you just said, we all have fear. It's a mood that underlies everything. There's others, there's care, there's anxiety, and it keeps us safe. And this, of course, segues into how our brain thinks. But, we know not to run out in the middle of the street because we have some fear about what would happen. That's good, keeps us safe. And so what we have to figure out is how to let the fear come. Like I'm about to get up on stage and I'm scared because one time when I got up on stage, somebody heckled me or who knows. It's usually related to something from the past that we're afraid of and we remember the feeling of maybe. If we have a healthy relationship with that fear, we learn how to say, okay, this is different and I'm ready and I'm excited to do this. And I know that I'm in the right place right now, or whatever it is. And we just say, thank you, fear. And we go through it and we do it anyway. Being able to process that and then move forward is a healthy relationship with fear, recognizing it and then moving forward.
Mm.
And so, what I do with my clients is do this assessment and we see it's called a being profile, but we see, okay, how's fear impacting us? How's anxiety impacting us? How's care impacting us? And how are we then being in the world in terms of leadership and partnership and collaboration and different aspects of how we will interact with people? And where is that fear showing up? Because I find that people kind of need to see because if I say to someone, I don't feel like you have a healthy relationship with fear. Fear is really impacting you here. They need to see like a concrete example. So it helps to be able to say, when you're trying to collaborate with this committee you're on, you're not taking the lead in anything. You're not, putting your opinion out there. And they go, oh yeah, that would be uncomfortable. And so it's finding some concrete example where people can see it and then trying to figure out, well, what do you really want? Maybe they don't want to be the leader of that committee, and that's fine. Don't have to. But if they do, then what would it look like if it were different? What would it look like if you were the leader? How would you feel about that? What would the meeting be like? We sort of do visualizations to start to like get the body physically and emotionally comfortable with it.
Love that. Fear, the acronym is face everything and run or face everything and rise. When you were speaking, I was like, fear, when you have a healthy relationship with it, can be a wonderful catalyst. It's a stepping
Hmm.
stone. Yeah, that's who I was. And now I'm going to step on that and lift
Yes.
into this other version. And I love how you said, just because somebody is afraid in this example of collaborating with this
Hmm.
committee, uh, they don't have to. It's enough to know this might be a habit and maybe this isn't the right committee for that
Yep.
person. But with your help and coaching, I'm sure in a different committee, that person was successful in speaking her voice. And where I get into it, of course, is also in the body with the lens of the chakras, because to me, that person has a disconnect between her creativity in the sacral chakra and her vocal and communication ability in her fifth chakra. And the wound might have been someone criticized the way her voice sounds,
Mhm.
or that she asks too many questions, or she's too bossy, or her ideas have no value. So a person who's stuck there can't possibly speak about their
Uh-huh.
ideas, can't
Yeah.
communicate as effectively as they might. So
Yeah.
again, we're cross-pollinating to help that same kind of client in a variety of ways. And I love that.
I love that too, and I'm gonna have to remember the term cross-pollinating because it's so true. It's
Yeah.
not as if there's only 3 clients out there in the world and we have to fight amongst ourselves, right?
But we feel like that, right? We feel
Yeah.
like we're on this podcast together and like, well, how many people are going to sign up for her? And how many people are going to sign up for me? And are we going to compare? And of course not, because the right people find
Yeah.
us who align with our energy. And it is about price, but it's also just about alignment. I can charge the same thing as 5 other people, and we're all going to get 5 different clients. And
Yep.
that's the beauty of it. And we're talking about the body a lot. And I know there is that mind, body, spirit connection. And in my lens with teaching yoga and doing breath work and Reiki and the work I do with clients, I get my hands on them and also inspire them to get their hands on themselves with mudras, which are hand gestures.
Mhm.
You're into the tapping and
Mhm.
affirmations. And I really haven't dived in there yet. I know there's certain things to do. Was that always part of your arsenal of gifts, or did you tack that on after you got into the business and really found it valuable for yourself first?
It was me first,
Mhm.
as many
Isn't it
things
always?
are.
It has to
Yes.
be. Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're better teachers when we've experienced certain things for ourselves, for sure.
Absolutely, and we know it's valuable when we've experienced it for ourselves. So, if it doesn't help this person, we know it'll help somebody, and that's powerful. Yeah. So, yes, it helped me because as I was building a business, I was working with a coach and she was having me write out how I wanted things to look and everything, and then have some affirmations that I could say. And I really believe in the power of affirmations. And at the same time, most of us do them in a way that is not really effective. Because if you're just repeating, I am the boss of this huge company all the time. And you're just saying, I'm the boss of the huge company. I'm the boss of the huge company. It has to be connected to emotion and your brain has to believe it at least a little bit. And a lot of times that's not the case. And so what I found was tapping or EFT. And what that does is sort of like move through emotional blockages in our bodies. And the tapping spots are acupressure points on the body. So everything is related and there's lots of them. I use a set of them. There's points on the face, 5 points on the face, collarbone, under the arm, crown of the head. And you literally are just tapping gently while you're saying things. And it can start with things that you aren't happy about. I'm really upset about how this thing is going. I don't know why I did that thing the other day. And you can kind of let the emotion about the things that you're not happy with just kind of flow through. And every single person tells me they feel better after doing it. And then we can kind of segue to, I'm so excited about this thing that I'm starting, and I know it's going to be successful. And that's where the affirmations come in. And now there's a bit of positive emotion attached to it, which means your brain is going to sit up and pay attention and go, oh, well, maybe that could be true.
Yeah.
Maybe I will believe it. So it's the combination of those things really helped me to get out of this rut of affirmations are silly and I don't believe anything I'm saying.
Well, I love that because, this is the real and the woo. And for everybody out there who thinks coaching is too woo, or yoga or breath work or tapping is too woo, there is science behind
Yes.
everything and nothing isn't connected, right? And if anybody is still thinking that that doesn't factor into this or ripple or vibe out, they'll get there.
Yeah, they will. They
The
will.
connection of physically touching changes the synapses and, like you said, reworks the emotions. So you're rewiring by
Mm-hmm.
doing, which is how I
Mm-hmm.
learn. And so it also, in my opinion, because I've done a little bit of it, takes your mind off and helps sort of dispel the emotion. And again, that vibration,
Mm-hmm.
the rib sticking part of it gets lighter and it
Yes,
doesn't
it does.
stick as much, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then you can replace it. If it's not stuck there, then you can make an adjustment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're making space. It's like, an old Oprah episode. I don't know who she had on, but you can't get new love. I think it was about love if you're holding on to the other relationship with tight fists, right? You can't
Mm,
hold somebody else's hand if you're here. But when you release that energy, now you're open, literally. Now you can hold someone's news hand. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, I do.
but fear, especially in my experience, people walk around either feeling like, I'm never gonna feel any better than I feel now. Why should I even try? Or who gives me the right to be happier than I am when all these other people are suffering? So there's that victim mentality. And they just feel like this is their deck of cards and they don't get to even find another deck or play different cards. They're so used to feeling a certain way. The fear is, well, if I'm not this version of myself, and it comes up with moms going through transitions. This is my favorite
Yeah,
client to work with. Of like, now they're sending their kids off to college for the first, second, or last time. Who am I if not this mom?
yep,
Or divorced. Who am I if I'm not this wife? Right.
yep.
And so we get so stuck on the labels and all the emotions and the feelings because it's comfortable.
Mhm.
And then when we make change, change is uncomfortable, even if it's time tested in the work that you do and I do. The transformation is so beautiful.
Yeah,
Getting people up to the plate to even
yeah,
swing the bat is so difficult.
because the comfort zone is very comfortable,
Yeah.
hence the name. Yeah, and you know what, just to go back to complaining as conversation, one of the things I notice people doing without realizing it is also complaining about something in order to make the other person in the conversation feel better, if that makes sense. And I think this is kind of related to what you're saying is if we don't think that we deserve to be happy, especially because this person that we're talking to is really upset about something, then we're going to bring it down and say, yeah, I hear you. You know, mine was even worse and this thing happened to me. And we're going to like exaggerate that something was bad because they had something bad happen to them. And we want to
Well,
be in there with them.
you want to validate and commiserate, and you don't want them to
Yes.
feel alone in their suffering. But
Yes.
some people I find then think you're trying to one up their suffering
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just
it's
by trying
true.
to connect to it. So it's all about, I think we're describing connections. We want to
Yes.
show people we understand,
Yes.
but you don't have to hop on the train with
Yes.
your own story because now you're being selfish. You are
Yes.
not really letting them have the stage and the room they need to diffuse their suffering or their pain. You are now making it about yourself, even though you're trying to make a connection. So
Yeah.
that's a really hard nut to parse to
Yeah.
tell somebody, hey, I see you're trying to be a good friend, but you're really not being one because
Yeah.
you're making it about yourself.
Yeah, and this was a long time ago now, but I did a podcast episode about what to do when you're helping someone through a tough time. And basically, everything I found when I was researching this said if someone tells you terrible news that has happened to them, here is what you say: I'm sorry. That sucks. I don't really love that phrase, but you get the point. Like, that's it. And let them talk. Because everything else we say is exactly what you're saying. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been there. Well, maybe you have or haven't, but they don't want to hear that, you know?
Mhm.
So just keep it simple. Let them
Yeah.
talk.
I had an episode about this very thing, and there's a chapter of it in my upcoming book, Grief Hijackers. And it's not even that they're around a happy hour table and somebody's telling a terrible story. And it is about that. It is more about the people who see a tragedy on the news. And for whatever reason, they feel like they need to make them, well, I know why, but their sense of value and self worth is so low that they need to make themselves seemingly matter by connecting, even in the most roundabout,
Yeah.
ridiculous way, a connection to that tragedy. Camp
Yeah.
Mystic, for example. Anybody who sent their kids to camp can immediately
Yeah.
understand.
Of
That's
course.
enough. But to say, I know somebody when I was a kid who lived in Texas, so now I'm in even more pain than you are because I know somebody from Texas. Like, what the fuck? What is that?
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
know what I mean? They need now the attention so badly that they're crafting a story.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate, and again, I understand where that comes from, and That's hard to have people recognize that pattern. Whew, that's a really
Yeah.
tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But just like we've been saying before, all of these things are very human things to do, and they may be trained habits that we don't even know about because of who knows, whoever was influencing our lives as we were growing up. It doesn't even have to be parents, it could have been any number of people. And when we recognize that, it's so important, as you already said, not to beat ourselves up. It's totally normal. And now we get to do it differently if we want to, which is empowering.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to hop off that for a second because I was a secondary math ed major myself. I think we talked about this in our pre-pod chat. And my husband and my kids think that's just impossible because I can't do the math I used to do anymore. So I'm going to ask you, when's the last time you found a sine or a cosine on a regular day? Yeah.
Oh, I used to talk to my students about this all the time.
Or
So,
derivative?
yeah, on a regular day, I can't say that I have, in fact, done a derivative or found the sine or cosine of something. I
Even
did
though we
help.
loved it. And it was so much fun.
Yes, I love getting the right answer.
Oh,
I love getting the right answer.
especially when you're really working through a good formula and you're like, this is so cool that somebody thought of this and I
Yeah.
know it. And now I have no idea. I'll tell you what, though, the one thing I never thought I'd ever use again is geometry. I use it all the time.
It's funny that you say that because I was about to just say that because all through the 12 years of teaching, I taught various classes, as you do, but I taught geometry every single year. I always ended up teaching geometry as one of the things, and I loved it. And it does apply in so many ways to so many things. And maybe you don't remember the song that goes with the quadratic formula and you don't sing it in your daily life, but you still, the relationships and how things balance and you're putting together your furniture or whatever.
Do you know the song? Can you remind me what the song is?
It's I really don't want to sing it, but I'll sort of sing it. What is Pop Goes the Weasel is the tune. And it's like,
Goes a weasel.
yeah, x
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Thank you. I love it. I had a math teacher who used to dress up as Pythagoras.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There was a day. I don't know if it really was a day, Pythagoras, I don't know. But he would come in this big long robe and whatever.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to ask you, the name of your podcast is Mind Your Midlife.
Yes.
There's a few ways you can define the word mind. What was your intention when you created the title? How did you hear it in your head?
So my intention is that it's mindset. And at the same time, we say mind your manners, mind your whatever. And it's also kind of meant to be a play on that to go the other way and say, let's make midlife great, as opposed to, the sort of mind your manners to me as limiting. I want to do the opposite.
Sometimes you could put a question mark at the end of it and have a podcast about that. Mind your midlife. What?
Oh, there you go. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Different punctuations.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
And now it's time for Joy on the Fives. So, Cheryl Fisher, in this moment, I love to ask my guests, what is bringing you joy besides this conversation?
Besides this conversation, let's see. I can give you bunches of things. I think the weather here where I am near Washington, D.C. is finally turning warm. And I was so tired of cold weather. I'm super excited about that. Where I sit in my office, there's a tree literally right outside my window. And just looking at the tree makes me happy. So there's another one. Yeah, I have a nephew getting married next weekend, and I'm really excited about seeing all the family and going and doing all the things with that. So there's another one.
Thank you. We were just in DC about a month ago for a wedding, and it was 90 degrees. And I didn't realize the weather's not usually like that. We were able to take the garden tour, which I guess only happens twice a year, the White House gardens.
Wow. Okay.
And so that was cool. And then we went into the People's Museum that is a replica. Have you been in there?
I haven't been. I've heard of it,
It is
though.
Unbelievable. I highly recommend you
It's
guys.
fairly new.
We took pictures in the Oval Office, but there's this
Yeah.
whole interactive wall where you can like enter the year of each room in the White House, and it depending on the administration, and it shifts the decor. It tells you, well,
Ooh.
this used to be that room, but now it's this room instead. It's very fascinating. Not quite a history fan, but it was cool. I hadn't been to DC since I was a high school freshman because my high school took a trip. Everybody went to DC. And the
Yep.
reason I have this segment in my show is when we started this podcast together, you had said that you give people the opportunity of looking at things differently, such as complaining. We have to be able to change that narrative. And one of the
Oh,
muscles we forget to exercise is joy, because
yep.
you need to exercise that muscle. And when you find more joy, all of a sudden you're experiencing more joy.
Oh my gosh, yes, 100%. I call them glimmers,
Oh,
little
yeah.
moments of joy,
Yeah.
my coffee tastes perfect. I got everything in there exactly right or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so a typical client that comes through your door in person or virtually, have you come up with a system that is just yours, that is mathematically a little formulaic, right? That you rely upon? Is that part of your process?
Yes. So I always have a new client do the being profile that I was
Mm.
talking about before. And that is not just mine, that's something that I use. And then we do 3 hours of sessions after that to go through what are the results saying. And then I have a system to figure out what does this client want to change? Where does she want to see something look different in her life? And how are we going to go forward? And they take that with them and maybe they just do those sessions or maybe they decide to keep going longer. But we always start that way because at least it gives a starting point and something that people can really see.
Yeah, that's great. For me, it all starts with a conversation, because part of my process is using my intuition to craft
Hmm.
customized pathways for people. So sometimes it's a little difficult because that's the part people don't understand, but it's no different than you have an intake chat before you send off
Absolutely.
a form to
Yeah.
somebody, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a nice way. Again, it's all about alignment. So not everybody likes the sound of my voice or the look of my face or my energy. And guess what? I might not like this client either. I had a guy find me on YouTube. And I'm very clear. The chat's like, 15, 30 minutes. He kept me on the phone for like an hour because then he started talking about some very serious things. And when do you exit a call like that?
Yeah.
And it turned out, then I recognized, and so now I do better with this. I kind of got a little bit used and abused in that way, because it wasn't until I scheduled my follow up, like, hey, let's work together. I really know that I can help you because I really know that I could. He hadn't even looked at my pricing. And
Mm,
then he said, "Well, I didn't realize, I don't have the budget," or whatever it is, which is true. It taught me a lesson. When I
mhm.
have somebody sending me an inquiry out of the blue, I'll be like, "Great, thank you so much. Please go check out my website. Make sure you understand my process and my pricing, and let me know if you'd still like to work with me, and
Yeah.
then we'll schedule a call."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. And I agree with being upfront about pricing too, because I do think that there are coaches out there who kind of hide that for a long time
The
until
scrolling
you
you have to do on an email,
yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
I love the way that your retreat sounds. I don't wanna go through 5 pages
Right.
and then have to give you my email to
Yeah.
get pricing
I
from
fully
you.
agree. That
And
turns
if
me off. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't even bother anymore. It's just like, "Yep, nope."
Yeah.
So I guess for anybody who's just a little bit younger than we are in
Mhm.
age, but not spirit,
Right, exactly.
what advice would you give? Because light workers, coaches, I'm calling myself a strategist now because I had a conversation with a fantastic woman and she moved from coach to strategist. I'm like, I like that. It's more mathematical too if you think about
Mhm.
it. Because we do give people strategies. And I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of coaches, which is wonderful, a lot of consultants, which is vague, but we're meant to take over the world, females especially. We're moving from male driven, ego driven leadership to female, divine, feminine, heart based leadership. And in that way, there's a lot of people who are investigating esoterics and other modalities and diving into this field. What piece of advice or anything you wish you would have known when you started out?
I think you're gonna like what I'm gonna say because I think you would give the same advice, but I would say absolutely trust your instinct and your intuition because this field can be done any way you want. And if you go down a path where you're not comfortable, then potential clients are going to pick up on that and you're not going to have a business, you know? So just because one person does it this way and says it has to be done this way, it doesn't have to be for you. So trust your gut, trust your instinct. Try something for at least 3 months, maybe even a little bit more. And if you're not feeling it or it's not working, try something else. Easy
Yeah.
enough.
I could not agree more, 100,000%. Life experience has taught the same thing.
Yeah.
Were it not for going through yoga teacher training, I wouldn't really have understood just what you said, because
Hmm.
one of the hardest things to do as a new yoga teacher is to sub for someone else. And that's where
Mm.
that mindset comes in. Well, she plays this kind of music, so I should
Ah,
play this kind of music, or
yeah.
this is the type of class she offers. Now, listen, if you're subbing for a beginning teacher, you're not going to give them a power yoga class. So there is a
Right. A
parameter.
framework.
But if you hate country music and that woman only or man only played country music, don't bother playing country music. Play music that brings you joy.
Exactly.
So, because just what you said, maybe it's the mathematical minds we are, but I have a bullshit detector that makes
Yep.
me wig out. If someone is not authentic, you can tell.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
maybe not right away for some people, but eventually you
Yeah.
feel it. They're
You
just not on
do.
their game. And as far as like things in threes go, I always tell people, whether they're trying me as their strategist or coach or teacher, 3 times is the charm, because the
Hmm.
first time you meet, someone's in fear, me or
Hmm.
them,
Yep.
or uncertainty. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe you didn't eat well. Maybe your kid kept you up all night. And the second time, same kind of thing. Third time, you're either no, this is great, or I'm going to go. I always like to give 3 things in threes: 3 months, 3 times. When you've got a baby, it's just around 3 months where they start to really become a little more human.
True.
And so, yeah, there's some magic to that. And 3 is a very magic number as well.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate what you said about the first time somebody's in fear. That's so true. And it could be the coach or it could be the client. It could be either side, but that's not going to be how it is going forward. So giving it another chance is a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Is there anything you'd like to leave my listeners with in terms of things that are coming up for you or where they can find you? Of course, I'll put everything in the show notes below, but I love my people to talk about themselves. So go.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. So, two things. So, the sessions that I do that I mentioned with the being profile, and then 3 sessions after that, anybody can go and look that up at cherylpfisher.com/coaching and find out what it's all about. All the information is there, just like we talked about. And I also have a free resource that I call the story cycle, which is at cherylpfisher.com/story cycle. And that is about learning how to just pause, realize how we're feeling right at this moment, and try to learn how to name that emotion and then listen to what's going on in our heads, because that's where that emotion is coming from. And that's kind of the first step in figuring out, well, if I'm not happy with this, how might I change it? So that's interesting as well, and that's free.
Okay. I love that. All right. Well, this has been so wonderful. And it's been so wonderful getting to know you. And thank you for the podcast swap.
Yes, absolutely.
Congratulations on your, what was it, 250,000 downloads or what?
25,000.
20. Well, there'll be a zero soon on that.
There will. I love the vision.
Who doesn't love the digits? So everybody listening to this show, I am Lauri Stern, Custom Design Wellness. You can find all of the things in the show notes below. Please like, share, subscribe. Sign up for Cheryl's newsletter. Sign up for 9 newsletter. We hate the algorithms as much as anybody else, but we got to play the game. And it's helpful when you help us play the game. So thank you so much for being on the show. And everybody listening or watching, have a wonderful day. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.